Hi, my name's Sarah. I'm 36 years old and I live in the Midwest with my husband Daniel. I want to share something that's been eating at me because I honestly don't know if I'm being a terrible sister or just finally standing up for myself. I have a younger brother, Ethan, who's 32. Since we were kids, my parents have always treated him like he's special, the golden child. No matter how badly he messed up, they'd excuse it. Meanwhile, I've always been the responsible one, the one expected to keep everything together. When I got good grades or helped around the house, it was taken for granted. When Ethan barely scraped by, it was celebrated as he's trying. That pattern followed us into adulthood. I worked hard, went to college, built a stable life with Daniel. Ethan bounced from job to job, burned through money, and constantly leaned on others to bail him out. My parents still gush about his potential like he's one lucky break away from greatness. 3 months ago, he lost yet another job, this time at an electronics store, and was about to get evicted. That's when the phone calls from my parents started. They begged me to take him in. Their words were always wrapped in guilt. Sarah, you're doing so well, you can spare a little kindness, or family takes care of each other. Don't abandon your brother when he needs you. Against my better judgment, I gave in. I told Daniel that Ethan could stay with us for a little while. Daniel hesitated, but said, I'll support you, but please be careful. I don't want him to drag you down again. I convinced myself it would only be temporary and maybe Ethan would finally change. At first, Ethan seemed grateful. He moved into the guest room, helped mow the lawn once, even cooked a couple of meals. He told me he was applying for jobs and promised, just give me a month or two and I'll be out of your hair. My parents were thrilled, constantly calling to tell me what a wonderful sister I was. But within 2 weeks, the old patterns returned. Ethan started sleeping until noon, leaving dirty dishes everywhere, and sneaking out for hours without explanation. Our groceries kept disappearing, especially expensive things like meat and snacks. And Daniel found empty beer cans hidden in the garage. We had told Ethan no alcohol in the house, but he brushed it off when I asked. Then came the incident with Daniel's wireless headphones. They went missing, and a few days later, I noticed Ethan wearing a pair that looked exactly like them. When I asked, he swore they were his. Something about his face told me he was lying, but I couldn't push myself to push it further. Meanwhile, my parents kept calling, asking if Ethan was finally turning his life around thanks to me. The pressure was overwhelming. I told them everything was fine, even though deep down I knew I was covering up a disaster that was only beginning. It didn't take long for everything to spiral. About 3 weeks into Ethan staying with us, things finally boiled over. One night, Daniel came into the living room looking furious. He had gone into the garage to grab a tool and noticed that not only were more beer cans hidden behind some boxes, but his old laptop, the one he used for side projects, was gone. Daniel looked straight in my eye and said, Sarah, your brother took it. I'm sure of it. My stomach dropped. I didn't want to believe it, but the evidence was piling up. I confronted Ethan that night. He immediately got defensive, saying, why would I want Daniel's ancient piece of junk? You're just looking for excuses to kick me out. He stormed out of the house, slamming the door so hard it shook the frame. The next morning, I got a call from my mom. Somehow, Ethan had already spun the story to her. She told me, Sarah, your brother said you accused him of stealing. How could you be so cruel when he's just trying to get back on his feet? I tried to explain about the missing laptop and the beer cans, but she cut me off. You've always been so hard on him. He needs support, not judgment. I felt like I was losing my mind. Daniel backed me up completely, telling me I knew I was being gaslit, but the guilt still gnawed at me. That same day, Daniel checked pawn shop listings online, and sure enough, there was a laptop matching his posted for sale. We went to the shop, and it was his. He had the serial number and everything. When I confronted him with proof, he finally admitted it, but twisted it around, saying, I only pawned it because I needed quick cash. I was going to buy it back. What's the big deal? The big deal was that he'd lied straight to my face and then dragged my parents into it. Daniel was livid and told him, you need to leave now. Ethan started yelling, saying we were heartless, that family should help family. I almost caved, but Daniel put his hand on mine and said quietly, you don't owe him your sanity. That night, Ethan left with just a backpack, slamming the guest room door on his way out. I thought maybe that was the end of it, but the real storm came the next morning.
My parents called again, this time both of them on speakerphone. They accused me of abandoning Ethan, of throwing him onto the street. My mom cried and told me, "You've changed, Sarah. You used to care about your family." My dad said, "If anything happens to him out there, it'll be on your conscience." I broke down crying after the call. Daniel held me and said, "This isn't your fault. He made his choices." But I couldn't shake the crushing guilt. Even though Ethan had stolen from us, lied, and broken every boundary, somehow my parents had me feeling like I was the villain. That was the first time I realized this wasn't just about Ethan. It was about decades of being the scapegoat in my own family. After Ethan stormed out, I thought maybe things would settle. Instead, the phone calls started coming almost every day. Sometimes it was my mom, sometimes my dad, sometimes both of them together. Every call was the same: guilt, blame, and pressure. "Sarah, you can't just let your brother drift around out there. He doesn't have anyone else." "Sarah, do you want to be responsible if he ends up homeless?" "Sarah, you and Daniel have plenty. Can't you just forgive one mistake?" One mistake. That's how they described pawning Daniel's laptop, stealing food, drinking in our garage, and lying to us. Just one mistake. The worst was when my mom said, "If you really loved your brother, you'd help him fix this. You know he's not good with jobs. Why don't you ask Daniel to get him hired at his company? That would solve everything." I was stunned. Daniel works in IT, a job that requires trust and responsibility, qualities Ethan has never had. I told her flat out it wasn't happening. She started crying, saying, "You always look down on him. Why can't you see he just needs one chance?" Meanwhile, Ethan wasn't exactly helping his case. He'd text me randomly asking for money, $50 here, $100 there, always with some excuse. "Just need gas. Phone bill's late. I'll pay you back when I get a job." When I didn't reply right away, he'd send messages like, "Guess you don't care if I starve," or "Don't worry, mom and dad know how heartless you are." Daniel saw the texts and told me, "This is manipulation. He's trying to wear you down." I knew he was right, but I couldn't silence the voice in my head saying, what if Ethan really is hungry? What if he really doesn't have anywhere to go? Finally, after one especially bad call where my dad shouted that I was turning my back on family, I snapped. I told them I took him in. I gave him a place to live. He stole from us. He lied and broken every boundary. You can blame me all you want, but I'm done being his safety net. There was a long silence before my dad said coldly, "If you won't help your brother, don't bother coming around here either." And then he hung up. I sat there shaking. Daniel pulled me into a hug and whispered, "I'm proud of you. I know how hard that was." But all I felt was empty. My parents had never spoken to me like that before. Even though Ethan was the one who caused the chaos, I was the one being punished for refusing to clean it up. That night I lay awake wondering if maybe I had gone too far. Maybe I should have just let Ethan stay, ignored the stolen laptop, smoothed things over for the sake of peace. But then I pictured Daniel's face when he realized his laptop was gone, and how quickly Ethan had lied to both of us. For the first time, I let myself think, maybe peace was never an option as long as my family kept protecting Ethan. Just when I thought things couldn't get worse, Ethan managed to create an even bigger mess, and of course, somehow it landed back on me. 2 weeks after the "don't bother coming around" phone call, my cousin Jenna called me out of the blue. She sounded hesitant, but eventually said, "Sarah, I don't know if you've heard, but Ethan's been staying at Aunt Linda's, and he borrowed her car last week and wrecked it." My heart dropped. Apparently, Ethan convinced Aunt Linda to lend him her old sedan so he could drive to interviews. Instead, he took it out drinking, crashed it into a pole, and then disappeared for 2 days. The car was totaled, and he had no insurance, no money, nothing. I thanked her for telling me, but I was shaking. I knew what was coming. And sure enough, my parents called. "Mom, Sarah, your brother made a mistake, but your aunt is furious. She's saying she'll sue him unless he pays for the damage. You need to step in before this gets out of hand." Me. Why is this my problem? He's the one who drove drunk and crashed her car. Dad. Because you're the only one he listens to. You're the responsible one. You've always been able to fix things. That line, "you've always been able to fix things," hit me like a punch in the gut. They didn't even realize what they were admitting. For decades, I had been the fixer, the one who cleaned up Ethan's disasters, while he skipped away without consequences.
I told them no. I said, I'm not paying for Ethan's mistakes. I've already done enough. My dad's voice turned icy again. If you can't stand by your family in a crisis, maybe you shouldn't consider yourself part of this family at all. I hung up shaking. Daniel found me in the kitchen, gripping the counter so hard my knuckles were white. I told him everything, and he just pulled me into his arms and said, Sarah, you can't keep doing this. They'll destroy you if you let them. But that night, I cried myself to sleep. Part of me still wanted to fix it, to send Aunt Linda money, to smooth everything over, to prove to my parents I wasn't heartless. Another part of me was exhausted, broken, and angry that they never once held Ethan accountable. Ethan eventually texted me too. His message was short. If you don't help me, Mom and Dad are done with you. Think about that before you choose sides. Reading those words, I realized he didn't see me as a sister. He saw me as a wallet, as a shield, as the person who would always take the fall so he wouldn't have to. And for the first time, I started to feel something I'd never allowed myself to feel toward Ethan before. Resentment. I wish I could say things ended with some kind of reconciliation, but they didn't. The last straw came a week after Ethan wrecked on Linda's car. My parents showed up at my house unannounced. They had never done that before. I opened the door and saw them standing on my porch, looking grim. My mom's first words were, Sarah, we need to talk about how you're going to fix this. I felt my whole body tense. Daniel stepped in immediately, saying, with all due respect, Sarah isn't fixing anything. She's done enough. But my dad ignored him and turned to me. Your aunt is threatening legal action. Ethan is your brother. You can afford to help. Why are you being so stubborn? I snapped. I don't know where the strength came from, but I told them I am not responsible for Ethan's life. I gave him a place to stay. He stole from me. He lied to me. He wrecked someone else's car. And now you're standing in my house demanding that I clean up his mess again? No, I won't do it. My mom started crying, saying, you're tearing this family apart. I said, no, I'm just refusing to be torn apart myself anymore. The silence that followed felt heavy. My parents looked at me like they didn't even recognize me. Then my dad muttered, fine, if that's how you want it. And they walked out. I collapsed on the couch, shaking, while Daniel held me. He whispered, I'm proud of you. I know that was brutal, but you finally chose yourself. I cried into his chest, grieving the family I thought I had, the approval I'd chased my whole life. Since then, I haven't heard from Ethan. The only messages I've gotten from my parents are cold, clipped texts. We're disappointed in you. Family means sacrifice. I don't reply anymore. I wish I could tell you I feel completely free, but the truth is more complicated. There's relief, yes, for the first time I'm not trapped in their endless cycle. But there's also grief. Grief for the parents who never saw me. Grief for the brother who chose manipulation over love. Grief for the family dinners and holidays I know I won't be part of anymore. Daniel has been my rock through all of this. He reminds me that we can build our own family, one that isn't built on guilt and favoritism, but on respect and care. And I'm holding on to that. So, no, this isn't a happy ending. It's a bittersweet one. I lost the family I grew up with, but I gained something just as important. The courage to finally say no. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough.
If you liked the video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.